What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Punk Rock Radar. Today, we are talking the copyrights, a tier list I've wanted to do for about 2 years now. We've got 7 full-length albums and 1 compilation album spanning over 20 years of amazing copyright songs. So I'm really excited to get into this today. And joining me for the journey, I've got our Discord kingpin, aka Elliot, all the way over there, and very special guest today, also from the Discord. We've got Scott, aka Blocko, aka the man who sold me that mountain of CDs that we went through for about 2 or 3 months. So, Scott, I'll kick it to you first. I know you're a big copyrights fan, so how was it putting together this tier list for the first time?
Yeah, I'm a big copyrights fan. Really haven't been a fan for a long time. That just shows how underrated this band is. I kind of got into them through like in the Methadones and some other associated bands, kind of like looking at, iTunes, oh, who are they similar to? So probably only been familiar with them, honestly, for about a decade, but they've been around since about 2002. So, but as far as this tier list goes, this is a hard one for my first one.
Yeah.
Because as we'll talk about later, there's not a lot of huge differentiation between the albums like you might find from, NoFX or Offspring or even like Blink 182. Just easier to put them in tier lists versus the copyrights. But they did progress a lot as a band, so we'll talk about that more later. But yeah, it's kind of not an easy one to do for sure.
Yeah, nothing but hits with the copyrights. But Ellie, what about you? How was this?
Yeah, no, this is probably one of the most difficult ones because, like you were saying, I think there's not much differentiation in the quality of the records. Like when I was marking down my favorite songs, I even put together like a little best of from everything. Like I could easily pick like 7, 8 songs from almost every single record that I could throw on like a copyrights best of collection playlist or something like that. So not an easy one to do, but an enjoyable listen, honestly. I think I've just like grown to appreciate the copyrights like even more going through this instead of being like, even though they have a lot of similar sounding records, like I never felt like I got sick of their style or what they were presenting. Like it never got like tired out. It wasn't like a tired formula at the end of it all. So I'm excited to do this, man. So you want to let's get started here ranking these things, man. And I mean, we'll just have John kick us off here with the first record. And what is this called again, this record?
All right.
We Didn't Come Here to Die, right?
This is, We Didn't Come Here to Die. It's the debut album. I think it's 2003, which is just wild to think about how long these guys have been kicking ass. In my opinion, the best modern pop punk band, one of my top 10 favorite bands of all time. So I'm a huge fan of these guys, but this one, I feel like this is probably the weakest of the full lengths, in my opinion. I remember I first got this, like, either It's Alive or Insubordination, whoever put this out, had like a 4 picture disc set that you could have bought, and it was like $40 or $50. It was really reasonably priced, so I picked up the full set. And listening to it the first time on picture disc, never the best way to go. But I'd say this one, it's grown on me a little bit, but in terms of the copyrights full lengths, this is my least favorite. So I still love it, but I'm gonna put it down in the D tier.
All right. D tier for John. And Scott, where are you putting this one? Where are you putting We Didn't Come Here to Die?
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same page as John in terms of what he said as far as their full lengths go. It's a really solid album, honestly. It just doesn't have a lot of variety to it. The guitar tones are kind of the same throughout. They don't change the pace much. But for a debut album, this is really solid. But I'm going to put this in my C tier. I think that's a good spot for it.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, C tier. Yeah, I mean, this one it's more of a standard Ramones core sounding record. I feel like it's missing some of the elements that I really love about the copyrights. I mean, the copyrights, I think we'll go through their discography, they get like a lot of mileage out of like a single sentence. Like they will build an entire song off of like one sentence, and it hits hard. Like it's really good how they're able to do that. Just like simple 4 chords, they're masters of that build. Making the most simple phrases like entire songs. They make it sound really big and impactful, but I don't think they really do that here. I think this is definitely more of just a standard Ramone core record. Not that there's not great songs, like the intro track, They Say, Graveyards Down the Street. Four Eyes was the one where I was listening to it, and I'm like,
that's
man,
the
the
best
copyrights
song.
really are. Yeah, I love Four Eyes. Like, it's such a...
Yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
I I have that on my list as well. It's like one of the standouts because it's kind of sounds a little different than some of the other
Yeah.
songs on there.
It sounds a little different. And the lyrics, like, they really are these kind of like quirky indie rocker guys who happen to make a Ramones core band. I mean, the lyrics, she's got glasses on, and I don't know if she reads with them or if she even needs them, but I do. Not on me, but on you. It's like so goofy and quirky and very like early indie 2000s, like Garden State the movie could have like a song with those lyrics on it. But I enjoyed it, but it's going in the D tier for me personally. I think it doesn't touch the records that are coming next, but it's a fine debut. And Scott, we'll have you start off with the next record here, which is going to be Mutiny Pop. What do you have to say about the Copyright sophomore record here?
Yeah, I mean another really solid follow up, kind of along the same vein as the last one, with maybe just a few little changes along the way, a few little more variety to it. I didn't mention any songs from the last one, so I'm gonna kind of hit. One thing I want to say about the Copyrights is they really have really good standout openers and closers a lot. I kind of noticed that, like spending a lot of time on each album this past week. Like Cashiers is a really good song. Weapons of Math Destruction, the second one, might even be better. And then what else do I have here? And also an interesting thing, I don't know if you guys noticed this. They have I don't think there's any seasons left to cover, but they do. This is the first one they do the Stuck In songs. Stuck in the Springtime.
Yeah.
And Alone in the Dome has Stuck in Winter. So throughout their albums, they've been doing these Stuck In songs. That's actually a really solid song too. So it's kind of a really solid start to the.
I feel like the records that have those are actually themed around those seasons slightly. Like Alone in the Dome has Stuck in the Winter. I feel like Alone in the Dome definitely has like a winter vibe to it as well. And where this one, what is this one? Stuck in the spring? Yes, this definitely feels like a springtime record as well. So, but where you put?
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm going to use up my C tier already. I'm going to put this in the C tier. Yeah, everything I said, it's good, great album, but I think there's just a little bit better ones.
Sure. All right, we'll go to John here. Where are you putting Mutiny Pop, man?
Yeah, I think this is markedly better than the debut. I'm going to put this all the way up in my B tier. I feel like this was the first one I heard, and like Scott said, Cashiers is an awesome opener. The first 5 are all really good. I like This Ain't Broadway a lot. It's a dive bar. I always thought that was a funny lyric.
Oh yeah.
Even on the back end, Button Smasher is a great song. This is one, like, I listen to this a lot still. I think it's a crazy good record. And yeah, it's going all the way up in my B tier.
This one I was pretty back and forth on because I think it's a definite improvement over the previous record. And the Copyrights are really kind of finding their sound here. And I've always deemed this style like Midwest Ramones core almost. So if we have Midwest emo, we could have Midwest Ramones core. And once again, just the most economical usage of lyrics. Like Cashiers, if you look at the lyrics, it's like a couple lines the entire song. And it's like an awesome opener. It's a kick-ass track. And the one John mentioned, This Ain't Broadway, I love the opening lyrics on that. Like you said, throw your scripts out, trash your cue cards. This ain't Broadway. It's a dive bar. It's so
good. Yeah.
Like Scott mentioned, weapons of. Go ahead, Scott.
My heroes are all assholes.
Yes. That's one I have too. That's one I added to my best of collection. It's so good. And of course, you have Button Smasher on here, which weirdly enough, the Shit's Fucked collection, Button Smasher, has way more plays on Spotify than the original one on Mutiny Pop. I'm not sure why exactly. Maybe it's just how it came out or something like that. But this is, I would say, a definite improvement. It's really kind of building what the Copyrights are going to become. I considered B tier, but I think I'm going to stick it in the C. So it's a great record. But yeah, let's move on to what I kept calling Make a Sound for the longest time in my life, but it is actually just called Make Sound. So I'll start us off with Make Sound here, the third Copyrights record. And I don't know, to me, this is that final evolution from Mutiny Pop. And we have hit I would say kind of peak this era Copyright sound. I mean, the opening track was the first Copyright song I ever heard, Kids of the Black Hole. what a great fucking
Yeah.
song, and what great lyrics on that song. It's one of the best copyright songs. Like, some say it's a black hole, but this town is a place we call home. Like, that hit like when I was listening to it when I first heard the copyrights. And there is just some great lyrics on this one, like such a vibe of like being stuck in your hometown, hanging out with friends, going to like the same few shitty bars, but just like loving life anyways. And we're also adding a few little extra like kind of musical instruments. Like we got the harmonica on Kids of the Black Hole. I think we got like a xylophone on which song is it? Thinking with the Lights On, possibly. But also we've got Planet Earth 1994
Oh,
with
yeah.
just like was so good. Also
Yeah.
one of the best copyright songs, like 1994, fucked up on Listerine, smoked anything we got our hands on, loved anyone we got our lips on. So good. Also, the line right after that, made excuses to not like Green Day, but we wore the tape out anyways. Relatable, man. Totally relatable. This is going in my S tier. This is like such a nostalgic trip back for me. This was the first copyrights album that I heard, and I think this is peak this era copyrights, and I think it's like a perfect record for what it is. But Scott, what do you think of Make Sound here?
Yeah, this is a really good album. You hit a lot of the good songs. Kids of the Black Hole. Like I think I don't know if you mentioned they use a harmonica in that
Yes.
song. It's haven't been heard before much in punk rock, but it works well. And then Head Count and Pentagrams, really good. The usual, really solid start on every album.
Oh yeah.
And then Planet Earth 1994 is my favorite song on here. Like you mentioned, Fucked Up on Listerine. How fucking hilarious is that? And then Leave You Where You Find You, I think might be one of the last songs. The
Yeah.
last song. That's another solid track. Yeah, this one's going in my A tier. I was really debating, like I mentioned earlier, even honestly S through B is just challenging, but this one just seems like a good spot for it. It's one of their best albums.
All right.
And John.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, John. Sorry I think I froze there for
Yeah,
a
you
second, so I
froze.
missed
All
the
right.
last.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. All right, we'll cut in here. All right,
Yep.
so not like Scott, I was bouncing between S and A for this the entire time. It's one of the first ones I remember spending significant amount of time with. My favorite song on here is, Elliot, you briefly referenced it, is Thinking with the Lights On. I love the way it kind of
Mhm.
opens up at the end. It's so badass. But Head Count is another one of my favorites. And my list is very fluid as always. I am the least prepared, but I think I am gonna go with Scott and go in the A tier. But it's like it's neck and neck with two others. I always say I have three favorite
Oh, yeah.
copyrights albums, but this is probably number two. It's a great freaking record. If you're just getting into the copyrights, I would say this is where to start though.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think this is like the essential starting point.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Or I'd even,
Oh.
yeah, I mean, you can start from the beginning and see how they've progressed
Yeah.
too. But yeah, this is as good as it gets.
All right, and let's go ahead and move on to. Only came out a year after. I think all of these came pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
they were
like a
cranking
year
them out.
between each other. They were cranking them out. Yeah. So Learn the Hard Way, which is from 2008. And John, go ahead and start us off with Learn the Hard Way. What do you got to say about this record?
All right. After much deliberation, this is going to be my S tier copyrights album. There's one more that's also really really good, but I think I'm going to go with this. I again, the first three, like you got locks for like amazing songs on every copyrights album. Those first three tracks. It's no different here. Like I'd say 57 North, Charlie Burger Time is probably my favorite on the album, but then later down the track, She Turns It Up is a really good song. Sleepwalker is good. It's just this one, I think, not that there's many skips on any of the albums, but this is one when I put it on, my intention is to listen to the entire thing. So I am gonna go Learn the Hard Way as my number one copyrights album for today. Very fluid, but for today, it's my number one.
There we go. And it's a 25-minute copyrights
Yep.
record, perfect for John. And Scott, what do you have to say about Learn the Hard Way here?
Yeah, this is a tough one. Yeah, this has been moving around for me. Yeah, just to talk about the album. It's another good album. To me, I actually think it's a bit of a step down from the Make Sound album, but there are some really good songs. I mean, John covered a lot of them already, but Second Hearse, 57 North, Two Left Feet, Headaches, Sleepwalker. I mean, it's such a great album.
Yeah.
I mentioned all the sons, but something about it just doesn't. I don't know. I skip a couple tracks, so if I skip tracks, to me that's not an S or an A. So I'm going to put this in my. Make sure I'm putting it in the right place. Actually, I'm putting this in B. Actually.
Okay.
Miami C's
Gotcha.
left. So
That's fair. That's
I,
fair.
I was thought he was about to do D tier for some reason.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. So yeah, Learn the Hard Way for me, it's mostly in the same vein as Make Sound, and I feel like it's not that much of a difference. It's definitely a lot more faster tempo songs on this record. But I agree with Scott. I don't think the writing is as strong. Like I feel like it doesn't give me as many of these like just big moments that I'm like kind of that like really blew me away when I heard Make Sound. I think there's tons of great tracks. 57 North, Charlie Burger Time, like John said, is one of the best tracks on here. Switchblades also is an awesome track, and Out of Ideas has some great lyrics on it too.
That's a
And
good
which
one.
I think the one I think it's Out of Ideas, where it's like I tried everything short of waking up before noon and trying to find work instead of watching cartoons. This is not a case of lost ambition. Never had any to speak of, so it can't be missing. Like, damn, bro, like it's good. There's good stuff on here. Like, I get the appeal. I think this is also Doug Lachelle from the Discord's favorite copyrights record. So John's right there with
Yeah.
him.
Then
But
I made the right
another
choice.
reason-
Yeah.
yeah, another reason to love Doug for John here, but I'm gonna go right there with Scott and put it in the B tier. I think I like two more records, maybe a little more than this, but like I said, the quality is really not that far off, and it really depends what you're looking for. Because this is like if you're looking for a lot more of these fast tempo copyright tracks, like this one is the one that you're gonna like. It is also I think one of the most economical. Just it's hitting these 2-minute songs in quick succession and it's done, and you get like a nice taste of something there. But I'll go B tier. And I think the next one here is North Sentinel Island, and I planned it out so that Scott could start with this one because this is what he recommended for Record of the Week.
Yep.
So I'm curious if this is going to be his S tier. I want to know. So definitely, Scott, tell me about North Sentinel Island. Tell us, not just me. John's listening too.
yeah, I mean, it was covered verbatim probably a lot in the record of the week, but as you know, I like this album. I think it's definitely like a huge change. There's no doubt about it from the previous albums. Tempo might be a little slower, but just the melodies are so good. And what I loved about it is just that there's a lot of theme. Just that the album flows so well.
Yeah.
And the themes are kind of a lot the same, isolation, desperation, hopelessness on a lot of the songs. And there's that whole like which they do in Trustees of Honor Chemistry and I think Bow Down, and then the last track, they work in the audio clips of people reporting about the island of, I can't remember the island now.
North
where it's,
Sentinel.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's the name of the album. Wow. Hello.
Yeah, you're good, man.
Saturday Morning, I guess. My favorite tracks on this are really pretty much all of them, but Trustees of Modern Chemistry, Crutches, Hardwired. I love how how Crutches and Hardwired just kind of perfectly loop into each other. What the right word is for that. Worn Out Passport is amazing. I love actually the last track. It's pretty funny if you look at the lyrics. Like basically they're stubborn as hell, and they're like kicking and screaming, and we're gonna grow old. It's just like pretty much pretty funny. But this one's gonna go on my S tier. Not a huge surprise.
Yeah.
But I think you guys are gonna differ a bit, but
We'll see. I'll go next here real quick. And yeah, I say it's like the next evolution of the copyrights. Like this definitely feels like the most drastic shift in style that we've had. It's still very similar. It's not that much different, but a lot more like mid-tempo stuff. And I said the signature copyright style of repeating a phrase over and over and over again is in full force on this record. Like there is so many songs where it's like barely any lyrics. Like you look it up, it feels really big. Like some of these songs, like one of my favorites on here is Sleep Better, and there's only like 3 lines where it's
right.
What is it? You always sleep better when you don't have any dreams, but what a nightmare that would be. And that's one of my favorite tracks on here, and it's 3 lines just repeated for like a minute and 50 seconds. The build up is so good on this, and I agree. This is kind of feels like the copyright's concept record. Like it feels like there is a through line and kind of almost like a story that's being told here. And when I first listened to it, I didn't love it as much, but every time I've listened to it, I've kind of grown to appreciate it a lot more. And the songs on here, like Worn Out Passport is one of the best copyright songs. Like I Want to Die with a Worn Out Passport, and I Don't Really Like to Travel. Just really just these like simple lyrics that like it like really hits me when I was listening to it. And Well Fed and Warm is a great one on the B side. All the ones you mentioned on the A side. Copyrights always have such strong fucking A sides, though, I will say. Like most copyrights albums are a little top heavy for the most part, but it's not like the B-sides are bad. There's great songs mixed in there. But I'm gonna go A tier with this. I think this has grown on me a lot, and I've really grown to appreciate North Sentinel Island and totally respect it being somebody's S tier. It's like probably the most unique copyrights record here. But John, what do you have to say about North Sentinel Island?
Yeah, I remember when I first heard it, I was a little bit let down because I'm definitely more a fan of the
Yeah.
speed, but that actually changes in a little bit. But I think Crutches is one of my favorite copyright song. It may even be like their signature song if you think about it. The opening track is great. Bow Down is great. Worn Out Passport, like you guys both said, is great. And Elliot, I kind of think that they not only do they write the A side, they absolutely know how to close out an album. I feel like you're
Yeah.
always like you're locked in. Like those last two tracks are always going to be really, really good. But I ended up putting North Sentinel in my B tier. But like I keep saying, I love every single one of these records. I still toss this on probably once a month, every other month, and I'll listen to the entire thing. So just a little below Make Sound and Learn the Hard Way and one other, but it's B tier.
All right, and we're moving on to, I believe, the compilation record. Is that right, John? Shit's Fucked.
That is correct. 24 tracks on this one.
24 tracks. I'll talk about this one real quick. I don't have too much to say about it. Like it is what it is. It's a collection of demos and B-sides and like acoustic versions of their songs. It's 45 minutes of kind of random copyright songs, but like there's like a ton of like great fucking songs on here. Like, you know, it's not like it's like, you know, tough to get through or anything like that. Like Let's Get the Fuck Out of Here is a great track.
Banger.
I actually love Help Me Stay Awake, the acoustic version, which I think that song is on Mutiny Pop better on this. Like I love these acoustic tracks that they do on here. Also, Locked Outside a Motel Without Shoes, a Wallet, or a Phone is like one of my favorite copyright songs as well. And Flooded Basement, Abandoned Beaches. These are great song title names too. Like they're really so it's a fun collection of songs, but at the end of the day, it is 45 minutes of kind of just, you know, demos and acoustic songs and B-sides. So I can't put it too high. I'm going to put it in the C though. I think this has definitely a stronger showing of songs than most things that were on the debut record. But John, what do you have to say about Shit's Fucked?
I'm right there with you. I feel like there's a couple standouts like Let's Get the Fuck Out of Here it would be one of my favorites on any of their albums. But I think Our Turn is good and Trapped on a Reel is good. Like the only thing is the quantity kind of it works as a detriment on this. I feel like there's definitely some like big time skips on here, which is not present on any of the other albums. So
Yeah.
I'm also landing in the C tier. Like I could see why this was a collection of 7 inches and B-sides, because that's kind of how it feels. You got maybe 4 to 5 standouts, a couple of middling tracks, and then a couple of, you know, things that never made it all the way to completion. So it is what it is. I feel like C is fair, but based on the strength of the ones I like, I'd still put it slightly above the debut.
Yeah. Oh, Scott, where you putting Shit's Fucked, man? Shit's fucked. So
It's since it's a compilation album, it's not a true, you know, regular album, you know, and honestly some of the quality of some of the songs maybe isn't on par with some of the others we've talked about already. I'm gonna put this in my D tier. I did want to talk about some of the songs. Did you know that the Locked Outside of the Motel Without Shoes, Wallet, or Phone is a semi cover of the Primitive Radio God song?
no.
I had no idea.
No, I know.
It's locked outside of a motel with cat money in my hand or something. If you listen to it, it's definitely it's not a punk song. It's kind of I can't remember if that was a British band but it was a 90s song that was kind of a one-hit wonder.
Do they just kind of
But they
rework
changed
the
the
lyrics? Yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
is.
they reworked the
okay.
lyrics and the sound is obviously a little different.
Ah.
That was kind of interesting. And then I agree with you guys. Let's Get the Fuck Out of Here is probably the best song on here. Dead
Mhm.
Flowers is pretty solid. Flooded Basements, Abandoned Beaches, a couple others, but yeah, this is a D tier album for me.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a B-sides collection. So, but let's move on here to, I think, the next kind of evolution. Not really, not too much of an evolution, but the Report here, which has one of their biggest songs on the record on here. So we'll have John start us off and talk about Report by the Copyrights.
All right. Yeah, I remember I pre-ordered this. I was very, very ready for this. And this is probably the one album that I never really vibed with that much. It definitely feels different than the others, but there's some really good. I mean, Heart of Glue is amazing. Telescope is one of my favorite Copyright song. Try So Hard, and of course the closer, Away We Go, a sick song. But this is, I would say, aside from the debut and the comp, this would be the one I come back to the least. So I'm gonna put it in the C tier. It definitely has some great songs, but it just vibes with me the least. But it's still good.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, what are you doing with Report?
Yeah, this was a hard one for me because it's neither their best album nor their worst. So I was kind of playing between A and B on this one. As mentioned, as I think you mentioned earlier, Elliot, like it's like the beginning of the album is amazing. Slider, it's got an interesting slow introduction, guitar, and then or unless it's a bass, I can't remember now. But and then Heart of Glue is one of their best songs for sure. Telescope is really good too. And then another Stuck In song, Stuck in the Fall. I think their Stuck In songs might get better as they go on.
Yeah.
I think this is the best Stuck In song personally.
Me too. Yeah.
What else? Basement might be my favorite song on here. It's kind of a funny song. Away We Go is pretty good too. Yeah, I went with A on this, but this could kind of float between A and B.
Okay.
This would be the weaker of the two A's, I would say.
Yeah, I said like Report. It definitely feels like a more updated like pop punk version of the Copyrights, like a lot cleaner sounding. I mean, it's not that much different from the production of North Sentinel Island, but like I think there's a lot of really strong melodies on here. There's still the great, self-reflective, self-depreciating lyrics that we've grown to love from the Copyrights. I do though feel like Report is probably the most top-heavy album. I think the B-side, outside of like a few songs, is kind of weak going back to this, but this I think was originally in like my S tier because I remember loving this one a lot. Like Heart of Glue is definitely one of their best songs. I think Stuck in the Fall is the best Stuck In song. The World Is Such a Drag is one of my favorite songs on here too. Also, I was looking at the lyrics on this, and crazy weird lyrics at the beginning of The World Is Such a Drag. It's like the lyrics are running after carrots on a stick. One day you'll finally catch up to it, and it tastes just like a carrot. That's the
Right.
that's the intro to the song. But there's still like great lyrics on here, like waste your life misquoting movies because they don't make them like they used to, and some other lyrics. I think I don't know which one it is. I think it is Heart of Glue. Laughed at people acting their age, making flyers from a magazine page. Like such like great lyrics on here. But I don't know, the B side outside of I think Try So Hard, which I thought was a really good song, and also No Knocks is a great chorus. I don't know. I felt like there was the most significant drop off here. So I'm going to put it around the B tier, but I think there is some quality songs on Report and some of the best Copyright songs on Report as well. So, but I guess we're on to the final record here, which is Alone in a Dome. And Scott, go ahead and start us off with Alone in a Dome here.
Yeah. So this is their last album outside of the EP they just put out. It's like a pandemic album, 2021. I mean, a really good album, honestly. That I was kind of floating between A and B. Obviously, it's obvious where it's going, but part of the landscape, Halos, Stuck in the Winter might be their best Stuck In song. No Such Thing as Grown Ups. On Division might be one of the best songs on here. It's kind of a slower song, but it's just really good, really catchy. Yeah, I mean, I like this album, but I tend to go more towards Sentinel or Make Sound more than this one. But if they keep putting out albums like this, I'll be more than happy.
Oh, yeah. Well, John, I know this was... I was actually expecting this to be your S tier, because I know you're a big fan of Alone in the Dome. So go ahead, and where are you putting this guy?
I'm still like considering a mulligan because I plan on S2 I think this album is fantastic. Like this is that happy medium between like Report and Make Sound, and yeah, Part of the Landscape, Halos, Tell Molly, even like that, like kind of slower, kind of lovey-ish song. I love Tell Molly, but On Division is probably a top 2 copyright song for me. I'm glad Scott shouted that out. Again, amazing openers, amazing closers. You know, I'm gonna do it. Why not? I'm gonna move Learn the Hard Way
All
down
right.
to A, and I'm gonna put this in my S tier. I just like it's only 12 songs, but they're all really good. So let's just do it.
All right, this makes more sense. This feels more true to John here. He's talked this record up so much.
I
and
love this album.
I agree with John. I think this is an improvement over Report. I think copyrights have taken kind of the Report formula, and I think you're right. Add a little bit of make sound to this, and you've got like an insanely solid record. I mean, I think the chorus, a part of the landscape, is one of their best choruses. That song is so fucking good. Also, Halos is such a great track. It comes on right after it with the I guess we finally crossed the finish line and we celebrate with bread and wine. It's such a fun song. Like these are we still got some great lyrics in the copyrights here. Stuck in the Winter. I like Stuck in the Fall more, but Stuck in the Winter is a close second place for the best Stuck in song. Before Midnight is a great song. No Such Thing as Grown Ups. I think it's some of their strongest choruses and just like a really excellent pop punk record overall. I'm going to put it in my A. I like the writing more on Make Sound. I think that's their strongest when it comes to lyrical content and kind of the vibe that the copyrights kind of put out. But I mean, Alone in a Dome is a close second place, and North Sentinel up there as well. And look,
they did it.
Go ahead, Scott.
I want to mention it's interesting about the title of the album and Stuck in the Winter. If you remember the intro for Stuck in the Winter, it's an old man talking.
Yeah, he talks.
Yeah.
He talks. Is same guy or no?
Yeah, it's an old man talking. I guess he's a famous architect from Carbondale. That's where the band's from, Carbondale, Illinois, Southern Illinois. And that's a reference to, I think, he built like some geodesic, like it kind of looks like that dome, some kind of dome in Carbondale. So that I think that's a reference to, since they're from there. But that was an interesting thing that I learned about it later.
I will say one of my favorite copyrights album covers too. So I really like the Alone in the Dome album cover. It's really cool. So North Sentinel has a great one too. So keys, something about keys, right, man?
Yeah.
I always feel like I should be driving while listening to the copyrights, going somewhere. So a long journey back home or something. But yeah, I mean, this is it. This is the copyrights tier list. We've completed it. So it's been a long time in the making here. And of course, thank you, Scott, for coming on and talking about what are your favorite bands with us. And this was like an enjoyable tier list to put together, I think, overall. Like, do you have any last thoughts on the copyrights here before we close out the video?
Yeah. Like we mentioned before, I mean, it's for my first tier list, this was really challenging. And it's obviously one of my favorite bands. But I just like anybody who's listening, check this band out if you haven't yet. You put on any of these albums. I don't know how you'd be disappointed. You could start anyway, but I would start either from the beginning and work your way through, or like you maybe mentioned earlier, maybe Make Sound would be a good entry point because it's kind of a good happy medium maybe. But yeah, if you're looking for like really good punk pop, I call it like working class punk pop, this should be your first band you should check out. So
100%. All right. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to go to punkrockradar.limitedrun.com. John is selling all sorts of records here. We also got the hoodie that John is wearing right now. Scott is also wearing our t-shirt here, man. So a Punk Rock Radar Ramones style t-shirt. John has a t-shirt machine now, or whatever he's got, some sort of printer. So he's working on all sorts of goofy t-shirts. We'll have a whole line of clothing soon. So check out the records on Punk Rock Radar. Check out the t-shirts. John always throws in extra stickers and even extra records. Who knows? If you're lucky. So thank you guys for watching, and peace out, dudes.